Although Shiva is primarily a god of destruction, he enjoys many sexual partners over the course of his many appearances on earth. Most of these sexual partners are identified as manifestations of a singular female principle, which explicitly represents the typological concept of Mother Earth, or what we call Mother Nature, aka prakriti in Sanskrit. Her source, like that of Brahma, is grounded in the mula-prakrti, the root of material existence. And she expresses herself in the three conditions, then, of a material creature's typical life cycle, the three conditions being triguna. Even though she is a material creature and involves herself in the creation and destruction of life by means of her female energies, her Shakti, her intimate relationship with Shiva identifies her as an immaterial and complementary equivalent to Shiva as Purusha, cosmic man. In the words of the Shiva Purana, there is no Shakti without Shiva, and no Shiva without Shakti. Various myths identify Shiva's Shakti as a benevolent and creative goddess, while others represent her as a fearsome and destructive power to avoid, if you can. Her mild-mannered character is often expressed in the following titles: Parvati, Mountain Lady; Sati, Faithfulness; Kamala, Lotus; Gauri, Golden One; Uma, Wisdom; Maheshvari, Great Goddess; and Shiva, not Shiva, Shiva, Gracious Lady. These same goddesses also go by the following alternative titles: Padma Garbha, Lotus Womb; Padma Bodhika, Awakener of the Lotus; Padma Vasini, Dweller of the Lotus; Padma Nabha, Lotus Navel; Pushkarini, Possessor of Lotus Ponds; Brahma Yoni, Womb of Brahma; and also Amrita, as in the Soma beverage, and so on. Apparently, her destruction of delusions is connected to the drinking of Amrita. Shiva's consort is able to transform herself with the blink of her enticing lotus eyes into a female form of Rudra, i.e., a destructive form of Shiva. When this comes to pass, usually by request of the suffering sky gods, she is invincible and goes by the names of either Durga, meaning beyond reach, or Kali, dark lady. Mythic descriptions of one of Shiva's lesser-known consorts, Kamala, the name meaning lotus, draw directly from standard characterizations of Vishnu's consort Padma, lotus lady. Quoting from Danielo's translation of the Kamala Tantra, her hands grant boons and allay fear, and hold two lotuses. She has a brilliant diadem. Her hips, like fruits, are loosely draped in a silken garment. We bow to her who stands upon a lotus. So her symbolic relationships with white elephants and a white mountain, in concert with her golden complexion, is somewhat reminiscent of mountain-born Soma in the Vedas. That 4 elephants anoint the lotus-born goddess from golden pots of ambrosia in the above passage recall, of course, the mythic image of Sri Lakshmi, Vishnu's female aspect, during the churning of the Milky Ocean, you may recall, as well as the visual renderings of similar goddesses at Deogar. The same symbolic attributions apply to yet another one of Shiva's consorts, an aspect, of course, of Shiva Shakti, known as Bhuvaneshvari, but only after she sheds the ancient skin of a serpentess and transforms herself into a lotus flower. Again, to quote the Kamala Tantra, "O Mother, like a sleeping serpent king residing in the center of the first lotus, You created the universe. You ascended like a lightning bolt and attained to cosmic space. Your body, while moistened with the nectar flowing from that, tat, referring to Soma, repeatedly reach your abode by that way. O mother and spouse of Maheshvara, they in whose heart you shine and are never born, you are Lakshmi, the consort of Vishnu, rivaling the luster of molten gold, holding 2 lotuses in 2 of your hands, and with the other 2 you make the gesture to grant boons and dispel fear. 4 elephants holding jars sprinkle your head with nectar. Bhuvaneshwari, the Lady of the Spheres, is a mirror image of Shiva, as her third eye retains within its sun-like splendor the image of the moon and a Soma vessel in the Bhuvaneshwari Tantra, as translated by Daniel Lohm. With the moon as her diadem, with large breasts and 3 eyes, smiling, she shines like a risen sun. With the ambrosia made from lunar essence, the semen, the sacrificial offering, Soma, she quenches the thirst of the world. This is why the all-powerful goddess has the moon, the cup of Soma, as her diadem. In essence, her lotiformed body and large breasts are filled with Soma, which motifs trace directly, as we should know by now, from verses in the Vedic hymns that extol the virtues of Vedic Somas, so-called udders, and the breasts of the river goddess Sarasvati, and the breasts of the Ushas, and so on. And in the same connection, the Lady of the 3 spheres is equivalent to yet another Shakti of Shiva, called Annapurna, which means plentiful food, food of the gods, because her overbrimming cups and lotus blossoms offer plentiful food. There are many dialogues between Shiva and Parvati in classical Hindu mythology that present philosophical disagreements between this divine pair. And this is because she is always pining to have children. She does represent, after all, materiality. But Shiva, the god of destruction, refuses to procreate because, well, that's his role. And Shiva has an especially troublesome relationship with the Hindu god of lust. Kama is his name, as in the Kama Sutra, the name meaning lust. It's Kama who attempts on repeated occasions to incite the god of destruction to procreate. But it never really quite works out for Kama. Brahma, the grandsire of the gods, is responsible himself for the creation of Kama, lust. No wonder there, since Brahma is the god of creation. And Kama mounts a divine parrot as a vehicle and arms himself with floral arrows, whose arrowheads elicit sexual passions, more or less in the same vein as Cupid. Now, Kama's flowery arrows are actually hard to distinguish from the weapons of Soma, Agni, and Rudra in the Rig Veda. Although Shiva, as the universal soul, is normally supposed to be above and beyond such delusions, Kama proves able to stir his reproductive passions on a few occasions, as observed here on a relief from Cambodia's marvelous Bante Sray, where the overconfident god of lust aims his arrows at the destroyer of world illusions. He'll get in trouble for that. In the following myth, we encounter interactions between a number of Vedic motifs that originally related to the plant god Soma, including a nasty dragon, a vegetative arrow, cosmic semen, and the invincible powers of a cosmic yogi. During an age in which the infamous Ashura Taraka, the name of a dragon, held dominion over the earth, all the devas, including Agni, Yama, Vayu, Varuna, and lotus nymphs, were held as captives. Brahma had earlier given this serpent demon a boon of uncontrollable powers. So the grandsire of the gods advised the celestial host that an offspring of Shiva would be required to rescue them, but only if this cosmic yogi could be convinced to create a son that was ordained specifically to destroy the evil serpent. Parvati, the consort of Shiva, would also be required to provide assistance, since she is the only goddess that can endure the burning powers of Shiva's potent semen. When all the sky gods agreed to these terms, Brahma assisted the sky gods by first requesting that Kama provoke some love play between Shiva and Parvati with his arrow shafts. Indra joined in the conspiracy by convincing Kama to shoot the god with his arrows of lust. Kama consented to the plot, but had to delay the plan until the spring of the year, at which time his soft and flowery bow and arrows would be available. The god of love also realized that he would need the support of his beloved wife, Rati, as well as the moon, the storehouse of Amrita, Soma. Kama was truly under the sway of Shiva's Maya when spring arrived, for flowers bloomed profusely in the penance groves of the god of destruction. Love was on the minds of all living creatures, and time was ripe for Kama and Rati to stalk the god of destruction in his sacred grove. Kama waited patiently for the moment in which Parvati approached her husband, at which time he let loose an arrow toward the lord of the trident. This well-aimed, impassioned shaft hit its intended mark and caused Shiva to look upon Parvati as though she were a beautiful and desirable lotus blossom. He said to her, "Is this your slender waist, or the sacrificial altar?" Overcome by the grace and sweetness of creation and the beautiful appearance of Parvati, the great yogi questioned himself, how can these flowers be described? Parvati then pulled herself away bashfully, but Shiva approached the goddess and slipped his hand inside her garment. As Shiva began to consider the mysterious sensations of his intense feelings of lust, and then questioned himself as to why a master of penance could be perturbed by Kama, he noticed that the god of lust was indeed lurking within his penance grove, and this enraged the Supreme Soul. Shiva's plan of action was to first dispel all the remaining arrows that came from Kama's quiver. Then he created a fire of dissolution from the third eye on his forehead and shot it quickly toward the god of love, thereby reducing him to ashes. Thus Brahma would have to devise another plan to coerce the yogi master into procreating a destroyer of the serpent demon Taraka. In this myth, both Parvati and Kama, as a lotus flower, or as the shooter of an arrow-headed lotus stalk, attempt to coerce Shiva into performing a creative act during the spring of the year. The power of Parvati's beauty and the effects of Kama's intoxicating arrows of love overcome the stoic nature of the god, but they cannot overcome the discipline of Shiva in the end. The cosmic drama draws to a close when the third eye of the cosmic destroyer reduces the god of love and creation to ashes, thereby drawing yet another Padmakalpa to a close with his destructive fires. As an epilogue to the story, Shiva predicts, however, that Kama will be reborn at a future time in order to console the disheartened consort of material lust, and that would be Rati. Thus, the lotus arrows of the god of love are destined to return to life eventually. There are relatively few surviving artistic impressions of the god Kama in India's artistic records, probably owing to the sexual content of the subject and the distaste Islamic communities in medieval India would have had for such imagery. Muslims, it turns out, saw fit to pulverize most imagery of comparatively modest character across the Gangetic plains. So one can only imagine their feelings toward images of Kama, the god of lust. But in central and southern India, a few surviving specimens can still be found. There is, for example, the rare image of Kama on his chosen vehicle, a parrot, at the Kudumi Yanmalai temple in Tamil Nadu. But here, close associations between the god of lust and the lotus are as abundant as ever. Both the god and his vehicle are standing on lotus blossoms, while the god's parasol, likely a symbol of the lotus plant's large and umbrella-shaped leaves, is supported by a stylized lotus perianth. So once again, we observe lotus flowers here from head to toe.